Hello, and how are you doing? You're very welcome back to Why the Long Face, a podcast with me, Horse O'Keefe. Firstly, thanks to everyone who listened last week. Thanks to all the wonderful feedback I got. It was great. It's really helped me understand where I can go better. I know it was the first week, but look, I'm really enjoying it. I know this is only the second episode, but to be honest, it's just a great outlet. It's great for me to sit here for an hour or two and just start chatting absolute waffle into a microphone and then edit out half of it so that you don't have to listen to it. But anyway, today we're talking about one of my most favoritist things in all of the world, film. And just as like a little disclaimer, I say film very weird. I say it as if it's spelled Filum. Don't come for me. It's just my accent. It's just the way it is. So if you don't want to hear me saying film for the next half an hour, 40 minutes, you probably want to just stop it now. Film is everywhere. It's one of the biggest industries in the world. I have always loved watching movies and watching TV shows. Like, always. There's pictures at home of me when I'm like 3 or 4 years of age, sat down, and I had like this little wicker chair that I would sit on in front of the TV, and I had this obsession with holding the box of the DVD, or I suppose VHS as it was that time, because I'm old. And I just had to hold the box when I was watching it. And to be honest, I still do that now. Like, if I'm watching a DVD now, I still kind of like to have the box near me so that I can just go to it during, and like, I don't know. I genuinely, I don't know. Again, maybe this is a topic to discuss with a professional. Maybe it's something very weird with me, like psychologically. But that's not for you to worry about. And anyone who knows me outside of the realms of the internet will know that I studied film in college for a while. I've made some short films. Like, any ideas that I get for like projects, it's always film. Like, I have a small little black notebook that I keep with me at all times, and at least every 2 to 3 days there's a new idea going in there for something, whether it's a scene in a film or like just an entire film idea. I'm always thinking about films. And like, to be honest, like perfectly honest, I don't know why it is exactly I'm so obsessed with like film and TV. I genuinely don't know. It could be that I'm just lazy and I just like sitting down and watching things, but I don't think it's that, because I analyze every like aspect of what I'm watching, like, constantly. My brain is just full of all this random knowledge, like, for the most random films. Like, or for some strange reason it drives my mother mad, but I could walk out to the sitting room and she could be watching something and I would literally get 2 seconds of it, of like, just like catch 2 seconds of it on TV or see an actor, and 9 times out of 10 I will guess that right. I will guess what she's watching and guess it right. And then she goes, "Oh, for fuck's sake, is this what I was sending you to college for?" But that's a very bad impression of my mother. Anyway, the point is, I love film and I love TV. And I think a lot of people do. And I think, see, it's one of those things that no matter who you meet, you can talk to them about film or TV. Like, you do meet the very, very odd people who don't like it, which is fine. I just severely judge you and have nothing to say to you. But it's fine. Like, look, you do you at the end of the day. But I think for me, what it is it's the escapism. And you can look at that in a few different ways. You can look at it as just you get home from work in the evening, you've had the dinner, you've done the few jobs, you just want to sit down and relax and throw something on. And that genuinely is just some people's attitude to it, which is, it's perfectly fine. And it's that escapism to just sit down and relax and put your focus on something else for an hour or an hour and a half or whatever it is. But I think that there's another layer to that, where sometimes you get so invested in a TV show or in a film, like film series, like you genuinely start to resonate with the characters or with the storyline. Because there is a lot of stuff out there that's based on true story or is pretty true to life, and I think that it helps to like physically see other people going through stuff that you might have gone through. So I think that it has that aspect of like escapism too, that it's like you're escaping into this other world where people understand you if you don't necessarily feel understood yourself. And I did it again. 5 minutes in, I've gone too deep. I've gone too deep too fast. That sounded dirtier than it was supposed to. So I just want to talk to you first about a few films that are important to me, and then I'm going to just chat a little bit about why I specifically want to get into the film and TV industry. So first I'm going to talk about a film that is like, for me, it was like the pinnacle film of my childhood. Like when I think of my favorite movie as a kid, it was this. I'm pretty sure there was at least 2 or 3 copies of it bought because I basically wore the DVD down, or I ended up scratching it because I was a child and I was stupid. But it was just constantly watched. It's a film called Small Soldiers, and basically it's like a gritty Toy Story is the best way of putting it. So it's basically, there's these action figures that get a computer chip put in them that makes them come to life. And I don't want to spoil it for anyone if you haven't seen it, but come on, lads, it's been out for a long time. If you haven't seen it, I don't know what you're doing with your lives. It was just like one of those films that just, it captured me. I think weirdly I wanted to have the toys that came to life, even though they were kind of killer toys and they were trying to kill everyone and kill each other. But I don't know, like, because I watch it back now, and like, I'll be honest, it's not a great movie, but at the time that didn't matter. It was just so cool, and I wanted those toys. I wanted to be in a world where toys were real, and I could just have friends. That's very sad. Like, it's got a young Kirsten Dunst in it. I think it was one of her first movies. Again, I didn't know that at the time. I only know that now going back. But I would highly recommend anyone watch it, to be honest, because it's just a bit of fun. Like, it's a bit of mindless action comedy nonsense. Like, you don't have to have a massive understanding of what's going on in the world, or like, you don't need to focus too much on the actual plot points. You just need to let it roll out and just enjoy it for what it is. I think we all need movies like that sometimes. Sometimes you just want to watch something that's just going to pass the time, something mindless, and that's exactly what that is. So then I kind of, obviously I started to get older. I started watching more films. And for me, like, if I could pinpoint one movie that was like the turning point for me to be like, Jesus, this is what I want to do. I want to do this. It's The Dark Knight. Like, I'm a huge nerd. Like, I love all the superhero movies and all the superhero like TV shows and comics and all of that stuff. I love it. And I had already watched like the Michael Keaton Batmans and the Joel Schumacher directed ones and all of that, and I loved them. Like, I really, really did. But I was always looking for something more. And then Christopher Nolan came out with the Dark Knight trilogy, and I watched the first Batman, and I was like, yeah, that's Batman. That's the Batman that I want to see. Like, it's dark, it's kind of scary. But then I watched The Dark Knight, and like, Heath Ledger in that film is just unbelievable. And I'm pretty sure he's like a lot of people's favourite part about the entire trilogy. And I genuinely remember watching it and being blown away by his performance. I'd never seen a performance like that before, where I was like, Jesus, like, this is unbelievable. Like, he totally embodied the character. He became the character to the point where he wasn't even really a character. Like, there was no Heath Ledger. It was just the Joker on the screen. And I remember sitting there and watching it and being like, this is what I want. I want to do stuff like this. I want to create films and characters that are as memorable, if not more, than this. And I know that some people might say, oh, but it's just a Batman film or whatever. But to me, it's not. It was the turning point for little young Horse. It was when Horse finally kind of figured out, yes, this is what I want to do in life. This is where I want to go. I want in 10 or 15 or 20 years time for some young fella to be watching my movies and to have that realization. And I don't, like, honestly, it's 100% not what Christopher Nolan was intending when he was making this movie and making all these creative decisions. He wasn't making it thinking, do you know what, now this is definitely going to inspire a young fella in the bog arse of Limerick to become a film writer or a film director. But it did. And that's why the film is so special to me. And I think like films can do that, or TV shows can do that. It's not necessarily just the film, but it's like you can attach memories to when you watched it or who you watched it with. Like Shaun of the Dead, first time I watched that, it was my, I want to say 14th birthday party. We had just come back from the cinema or wherever we were, and we wanted to watch a movie, and it was actually my dad that had it on DVD, and I asked him could we watch it, and he said yeah, go on. And so we did. And like Shaun of the Dead is not a scary movie, but when you're 14 it's quite a lot of blood and gore and all of that to see. And I remember like me and the 4 or 5 of my friends all sat around, and like when that first kind of big scene of like all the blood and gore, like we were all horrified, but none of us would admit to the other person that we were horrified. We all just kind of laughed it off, but like either chatting to them since or just being in the moment, like we knew everyone else was like, oh Jesus Christ, I'm gonna have fucking nightmares tonight. And like I can't watch Shaun of the Dead without thinking of that now. And I think that's what's so beautiful about like films, is that it's a very easy way to bond with people because they're very accessible. Like you'll always find something that you can watch with someone. Like a lot of my college friends, like one of the first bonding things that we ever did was go to the cinema together. And again, with that movie now, that's the memory that's attached to it. It's not just another movie. It's, oh, I remember the first time I saw this. We all hung out. We were all so young and stressed over college, but we all took the time out to go watch a film together. And like that could genuinely just be me. That could just be how I view cinema. But even something as simple as like, I remember one time my mum and my sister were gone away to a concert, and me and dad went into town and we went to the DVD shop, like the rental shop, just like the local shop or whatever. And dad let me get 2 DVDs, and I picked out Spider-Man 3 and Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull. And we watched Spider-Man first, and then I think it was, so we watched it and I really enjoyed it. And then it was like, I think it was like 10 o'clock, 10:30. And like I said, oh, thanks for getting the movie. And I went down to my room. I went down to my bedroom because I was like, okay, Joe, we've watched one movie now. It's time to go to bed. And then dad came in and he was like, what are you doing? And I was like, oh, I'm going to bed because it's late. And he said, do you not want to watch the second movie? And as silly as it seems, like that, it had never dawned on me that you could watch 2 movies in one night. Like that was insane to me. And I genuinely, even now thinking about it, I'm smiling and I have this just like little rush. Like it's nothing compared to the rush I got at the time, but that night was just like an amazing experience, surrounded by cinema, surrounded by film. Like the concept that I can stay up later and watch another movie was just, at the time it was madness. Like it blew my little brain. It blew my mind. To be honest, I don't even think I've experienced a buzz like that since. But it's just one of my favorite nights ever. And it's so simple. All I did was watch 2 movies with my dad, but it's just a lovely little memory to have. And I wouldn't have had that if it wasn't for films and wasn't for cinema. So look, lads, I know what you're all thinking. You're thinking, Horse, someone with such a knowledge of cinema and a love of film, surely you have made some films yourself. And you'd be right, I have. I made my first one when I was 16. It was part of a TY project, and I made it with a couple of the lads. So I can't take credit for the plot. It was adapted from a short story that my best friend had written. But I remember for those few months of like planning it out, like it didn't seem like work. And any films I've made since, it's never felt like work because I just love doing it and I love all the aspects of doing it. Like we ended up making, so me and my best friend, we ended up making about 3 short movies together. And like I look back at them now and oh Christ, like some of the lines that I wrote or we wrote, like at the time we were like, oh, this hits so hard, like this is so deep, like little 16-year-old, 17-year-old lads trying to write these big speeches, and they're so cheesy, like they're awful. But if anyone wants to watch them, like let me know, I will happily send you on the links, because my hope is that in years and years to come, when I'm famous, these will get dragged up and they'll be shown somewhere, and I'll have to just face how cringeworthy they actually are. But saying that, the first one that we made, it was about this teenage guy, and he was kind of struggling with dealing with his mom's boyfriend. And it ended up being like it's cheesy, but it is quite good. I have to like I will admit it's quite good, and we sent it off to a few different charities because obviously we were talking about domestic abuse, and we didn't want to just make some sort of random throwaway movie. We actually wanted it to kind of have a point or a purpose. So we sent it off, and it ended up being used in a campaign. It was called the Man Up campaign, and it was about domestic abuse. Like one of the charities took it on and posted it on their page. And like for like 16, 17-year-olds, first film, like that was unbelievable. And I think that then was when I realized that I could combine my two loves, so the love of cinema and this kind of love or want to help people and help connect with people. So I mean, we ended up making another one for a charity here in Limerick called Familes. They're a support group basically for families going through separation. We made a promotional film for them. Again, like we were only 17, maybe 18 at a push, making all these films, but the joy was coming from knowing that we were helping people, or at least for me, it came from knowing that someone could see that and know that they're not alone, or know that there's help out there for them. So then going forward, I got into college, and that was when I kind of came into my own in relation to my work. Like every single piece of my work has some connection to mental health. In particular, men's mental health, because obviously I'm a man, and so it's a topic that's quite close to my heart. So there's two. Well, one would be just a short video as opposed to a short film, but one video that I made, and it's on my YouTube channel if you want to check it out. There's a bit of a shameless plug right there. It's called "I'm Fine Because I'm a Man," and it's one of those pieces where, to be honest, the visuals aren't that important. Like it's just me arsing around doing mundane things, but it's the audio. The original piece was supposed to be me doing this eulogy, and it was about my frustrations around losing someone and around the whole thing of a funeral where you can't speak ill of the dead, like even if they were a pain in the arse, like you can't say that at a funeral because that's frowned upon. So that was the idea, and I set up a little voice recorder, and I was just practicing this little script that I'd done. And I got to the end of the script, and I just decided to keep talking. And it was like a stream of consciousness coming out. It was like automatic writing, but with my voice. And I just kept talking, and I got this line, "I'm fine because I'm a man," in my head, and I just kept repeating that over and over. And then I was basically just talking about how, especially in Ireland, during a funeral, a lot of the men are expected to be fine. They're expected to be stone-faced. You're not allowed to show emotion because you have to be strong for your mum, or strong for your grandmother, or strong for your sister, or your aunt, or your cousins, or whoever. And so when I made that piece and I posted it, I got an unbelievable amount of feedback from men, both in college and people I know outside of college, and a lot of them were just saying thank you. They were just saying thanks for being able to describe what they felt like they couldn't describe, for kind of contextualizing a lot of the stuff they'd been feeling, but they didn't really know how to actually get it out. And now they had a video that of someone else who had been through it, and they could watch that and it would resonate with them, and they'd know that they're not alone. And that's all I want to do with any pieces of my work, is to help people realize that no matter what you're going through, you're not alone. So, and that piece ended up being used in the Cork Indie Film Festival this year. Again, something I'm very proud of, which means that a couple of hundred people have seen it. And if I've helped a couple of hundred people, then, you know, that's pretty amazing. If I had to say, like, my favorite piece, like the favorite piece of work or the favorite film that I have made, it would have to be a film I made called Living with Dave. I made it last year during the lockdown, and it was one of those projects where I deliberately made it hard on myself. Like, I created a lot of work for myself so that I would have to be busy, because obviously lockdown was horrible and shite for everyone. So, like, the premise was basically, it was just me living in this apartment, and my housemate was a teddy bear who spoke to me. And I did it in such a way where it was like a TV sitcom. So I had the laugh tracks, and I had like the audience kind of going ooh and ah or whatever, reacting to the situations. I wrote a theme song which my housemate helped me record. So we did all this music and all these laugh tracks, and we did all of this outside stuff to help with the film. But basically the whole point of the film was that the teddy bear was trying to get me to talk and open up, which my character didn't want to do. And it kind of takes like a bit of a twist at the end, which I won't spoil, because I would hope that you might go and watch it if you haven't watched it already. And that for me was like, it was the biggest piece I had ever undertaken, but it also had the biggest payoff for me when it was done. Like, unfortunately, just because of like the way the world is, or the way the internet works, like, I upload a piece of work and I would love for everyone to see it, but unfortunately, just with algorithms and whatever, people don't. So I generally only ever kind of get a couple of hundred views. And it's not that I'm ungrateful for that, like, I'm not, but like, the fact that even a couple of hundred people have seen it, and the fact that I've gotten a couple of different people messaging me saying that it was a great piece, that they laughed or they cried, or that it just had some sort of emotional response with them, like, that's all I wanted. And it was a really difficult piece for me, because obviously it was during lockdown, and a lot of the stuff I was saying was very relevant to me at the time. And I think that's why my work does resonate with people, is because I have the experience. I'm not writing from, I'm not trying to put myself into the shoes of someone with depression or mental health problems. That is me. Like, I have mental health problems. So, like, a lot of my work and a lot of my films are as much a therapeutic practice for me as they are a way of me getting my messages out there to help other people. So, like, if you're interested in any of my films, whether it's the old cheesy sort of first attempts at films or the new ones, like, check my YouTube, or if you don't want to go searching for the links, just message me. I will happily send you the links. So, moving on to kind of why I want to get into the industry, like, I've kind of touched on it already, but I think film and TV have a great power, because hundreds upon thousands of people will watch movies and watch TV shows. And I think it's not utilized enough that you can use this, like, this branch of media to get messages out there and to genuinely help people. And that's what I want to do. I want to create characters that go through real life shit, basically, like real life problems. And I'm not saying they don't exist, like, they do, but I feel like there needs to be more. It's fair enough that, like, we watch these action movies where someone's son or daughter has been taken, and you try to kind of resonate with, like, the mental anguish of that. But, like, realistically, and hopefully, like, not many of us are going to have to go through that in life. I think it's rare now that we see someone just like a normal guy, like a normal looking guy who's not completely muscly and jacked, just going through normal life things and trying to deal with that, because as far as a movie plot goes, that would seem boring, but to me it wouldn't be. It doesn't have to be boring, because you can use that and people can see that and then resonate with that and hopefully learn something. And look, I know, I know myself. Sometimes you're just not in the mood to watch something that's going to be really dark and really heavy. But I think just because people mightn't be in the mood to watch it all the time doesn't mean they shouldn't be made. And it goes for any problem that you're going through or any life thing that happens. I genuinely think there just needs to be more representation of mental health on television and on film. And I would argue that the representation that is there isn't necessarily great all the time. It's always like the guy is walking around and it's raining and he's got his hood up and he's just screaming all the time. And of course, 100% that is an aspect of mental health, but they never show like that person going home and like the inner fight, like the fight that you argue with yourself because you know you have to eat dinner, but you don't want to cook it. So you just cook a plain bowl of pasta. Or like having a massive pile of washing there that needs to be done, but you don't do it because you just don't have that drive. I want to make characters that are true to life, that will genuinely resonate with people who are genuinely going through things that people genuinely go through. And like I personally would rather see something like that than watch another 5 Fast and the Furious movies. And that's what annoys me, is that like the studios will constantly put all the money into all these things that they know are just going to make easy cash. They won't take risks anymore. That's why all these indie films don't get anywhere, because people won't watch them because they're not distributed. But that's a whole other argument to get into. I know I said at the start that it could just be that I'm lazy and I just like sitting down and watching things, but I genuinely don't think it's that. I think I watch so much like film and TV because I want to be the one making the film and the TV. And sometimes I'm learning what to do, sometimes I'm learning what not to do. But like, how many of you can honestly say there's been representation of someone like you in media? Because I genuinely don't think, okay, fair enough, there's countless, if anything, there's too many representations of straight white men on TV. I'm not arguing that at all. Like, there is. But when it comes to like, I don't think I've ever seen a really, really deeply accurate representation of mental health. And I'm not saying it's not out there, it probably is. It just might have not been on my radar. But I want to make like a really raw, really emotional, really Irish look at mental health. And I will get there. And that's one thing that I have no doubt about, is that I will make work that's going to help people. I don't know on what scale. Like, I hope that it will be on a relatively large scale, that like I would make big films and big TV shows. But if I don't, that's fine too. I'm going to just keep making my short films. You know, because even I know for a fact that my short films have helped a handful of people, and that's enough. Plus, like I said before, they help me. It's a way of me contextualizing my thoughts and putting them into something, as opposed to just having them and not knowing what to do with them. So, because I've had the complaint before that, oh, Jesus Horse, your work is very dark, like all the time. I'm like, yeah, but it's dark with a purpose. There's no point in sugarcoating it. Like, depression is shit. Anxiety is awful. It's not just me sat in a dark room, you know, crying all the time. It's me going out to work and feeling this constant heaviness in my head. You know, it's like, it's me actively trying to do something, but me then tearing it apart because my brain won't allow me to think about anything positively. You know, it like, you can be depressed and surrounded by people and still feel alone. But yet in a film, if someone's depressed, they have to be on their own in a small little room all the time. You know, and I think that's like, we just need to try and get these portrayals of truth out there, and that's what I want to do. So look, I mean, I could be talking absolute waffle. Like, if you have any films or TV shows that you think are genuinely good representations of mental health, please let me know. Please shoot me a message, because I'll happily watch them and I'll happily kind of take them on board or whatever. I just personally feel like I've never seen anything that has helped, or that I think is showing all the aspects of mental health. So like I said, also, if you want to go back and have a look at any of my other films, whether it's the good ones or the bad ones or any of the ones in between, let me know. If you do watch them, also, let me know what you think of them, because I can't get better at my work if I don't get feedback. So it's as much about the feedback I get from people as it is me noticing the little mistakes myself, I really enjoyed this episode. I know it mightn't have seemed as much about film as you thought it might have, but for me it was. And I think, again, I've come to some realizations within just recording this that I mightn't have necessarily had before. I've also had an idea for a film that I had to scribble down halfway through. So, yeah, look, I really enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got something from the episode. And yeah, sure, look, another episode coming in the next few weeks. I'm going to be talking about music next week. So what I'm going to ask is, what are some of your favourite songs and why? Let me know in a comment or a DM or a message, or like I said, send me something by carrier pigeon. I don't really care how you get it to me. Just let me know. So look, for the next week, lads, just mind yourselves. Keep the head up. But if you can't, that's fine. Thank you. And God bless.